Hi, I'm Mark McDonald, world-renowned nutrition and fitness expert and New York Times best-selling author. I spent my career launching global movements and helping millions of people put an end to the dieting madness. Now, with mindset guru and fellow nutritionist Carrie Lipoli, we've created the epicenter for all things nutrition to educate and empower you to finally live with food freedom. Welcome to the show, Food Freedom, your epicenter for all things nutrition. Now, we have a special show for you today. I mean, every show is special. But unfortunately, in my house, I thought my wife used to look at me as like, okay, the person she likes the most. But now I think she likes Dr. Anna Toker more than me because she watches Dr. Anna. She loves Dr. Anna. And what we have seen is people love her content. So we want to do a whole show on the hottest questions that you want Dr. Anna to answer. So to dive into, let's bring the gut check guru herself, Dr. Anna Toker. Dr. Anna, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Dr. Anna, what are we going to do about my house that my wife, Abby, now, instead of watching a video of me, watches videos of you? It's a little concerning.
Abby is on my team, and that's good. I like to have an ally in all places. This is good.
She is on Team Dr. Anna. And, you know, the reality is that obviously her mom, Andrea, had colitis, who you've helped tremendous with. Abby's had a lifelong term of digestive challenges with irritable bowel syndrome, constipation. So there's a lot that has gone on. So you are the gut guru. Like you're like the magic potion person. But there's one topic that we hear all the time. What's leaky gut? And so many people, they say, do I have leaky gut? What is leaky gut? Walk us through what leaky gut is and what's our solution for it.
Well, in the modern world, the answer is, yeah, you got leaky gut. You know, leaky gut is sort of a layman's term that we use to describe an inflammatory process of the intestines that's severe enough to break apart the cells that line the intestines. And when those cells get broken apart just a little bit, just kind of like missing a piece of grout in the tile on your bathroom floor, a little bit of water can get in there. And over time, that can cause damage to all the layers underneath the lining, if that sort of makes sense. We believe that all modern disease comes from intestinal inflammation through this route. So whether you have anxiety, depression, difficulty focusing, your joints are hurting, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, liver disease, obesity, all of these things can come from intestinal inflammation. And so some of the things that I typically will suggest to patients who will come and they have no gut problems whatsoever is if you've got any sort of inflammatory process, arthritis included, or heart disease, start with the gut. And typically we start with the gut with the first simple thing to do would be to go on a gluten-free diet. And I can explain that to you a little bit if you want me to.
Yeah, so what's cool about just your knowledge and that first off, that most everyone has a leaky gut over time. And when we think about the inflammatory response in the intestinal tract, let's dive into what triggers that. I know you said gluten. What are the three things that typically cause inflammation, which is the start of leaky gut?
The number one thing is going to be a food intolerance. And in particular, gluten gets, and it's such a shame that I have to say it because it is so yummy. But there's a
it is yummy. Like the bread, like just think about gluten is that beautiful bread elasticity where you just feel like, Yes. So you enjoy it for 5 minutes and then it causes chaos in your gut, correct?
It does. There's a particular part of that protein, what we call a glycoprotein, that's part of the gluten molecule that causes direct inflammation of the intestinal tract. You're not allergic to gluten. I'm not saying you've got celiac disease, and I'm not saying you have an allergy. I'm just saying that you're a human being, and the modern gluten molecule has a particular glycoprotein aspect to it that causes inflammation and, more importantly, causes the secretion of a hormone called zonulin, which is sort of like cholera toxin, for lack of better words. So that is the number one reason people will have leaky gut and any kind of systemic disease. It always starts with go gluten-free.
It's
Other reasons
so
that
so just hold real quick on that, Dr. Anna. When you think about this, so it's when you think about gluten-free. Gluten-free doesn't mean that it's great for you either. So you have to be aware. But looking at this and starting to look at gluten, that's one step. What's the next step to help reduce the inflammation in your intestinal tract?
So another reason that people might have inflammation is because of the absence of certain good foods. So there's a substance called the short chain fatty acid, and that's caused by bacterial metabolism of a prebiotic fiber called inulin. And so soluble fiber, so to speak. So there's two types of fiber. Soluble fiber feeds bacteria, and those bacteria turn that fiber into something called the short chain fatty acid, which is a natural anti-inflammatory for the lining of the intestine. And so some people don't get enough fiber in their lives, and fiber is magical. We've discussed that. So you need a little bit more fiber in your life, and that will help calm down the lining of the inflammation.
So
Of
if you have
of the
leaky gut, if you have leaky gut right now, so you think about gluten, you think about fiber, and I love the two words you talk about, zonulin and inulin, like two different things, but we're gonna do a whole future segment on that. But look those up if you don't know what those are. But if you feel like you're suffering from leaky gut, start with less gluten or avoid gluten and add a little bit more fiber. Now, Dr. Anna,
Yeah.
after the break, the next question we get is, what does being hangry mean? Now, I'm a blood sugar guy, so I know low blood sugar means I am hungry and I'm angry at the same time, and we're going to dive into the science of that. We'll see you right after the break.
Hey, it's Dr. Shark, your friendly neighborhood colorectal surgeon. Have you ever been hangry? That's where you're so hungry that your children are scared to approach you. You know, the hormone that causes this hangriness. And a lot of people think it's blood sugar. Oh, my blood sugar's low, and this is why I'm so hungry, and this is why I'm so just outraged. As it turns out, you can achieve this hangry state long before your blood sugar goes down, unless you are on an artificial hypoglycemic or you're diabetic or some other issue. The hangry stage hits before your blood sugar gets low. And that's due to a particular hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin is a hormone that is produced by your stomach. And when the stomach is empty, it is produced to tell your body, hey, stomach's empty. Can you show us some love? Give me something to eat, Seymour. And so ghrelin will override your blood sugar, and it will override sort of your finances and your emotions, and because it is a hormone, it's very difficult to offset. One of the beauties of stomach surgery, when we do restrictive surgery, is that it seems to turn off this ghrelin signal, or it mutes it. And these injectable medications that you do for weight loss are doing the same thing. They are blunting this ghrelin response, among other things. But it just tells you not to be hungry. And in a natural situation, without the surgery, without the medications, you can actually turn off this ghrelin by doing a couple of things. So listen very closely. High protein diet every 3 hours from the time you wake up until right before you go to bed. Start with your protein first. These are small little 150 to 200 calorie meals that you're going to do 6 times a day. If you're a man, it's going to be more like 250 calories 6 times a day. But so you're going to do these small little half-size meals. Start with the protein first. Get yourself 80 to 120 grams of protein in your day. So lots of protein in each of those meals. Number 1. Number 2, get sleep. There's something about the sleep process that resets a lot of these hormones in your body and your adrenal glands. Mitigate your stress. Okay. Again, the adrenal glands is a hormone
can override some of this process. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And avoid the artificial, non-nutritive fillers in everything that you do, including your supplements, your vitamins, your food. Try to get rid of some of these artificial colors, these flow agents, and whatnot, because they have a tendency to screw up your metabolism a little bit. So that is your homework, to get rid of the hangry is as best as you can, as naturally as you can.
Get rid of the hangry. I love that. First off, I love the little ticker above your head. This is a new addition that you made on your videos, on your reels. But what I love about this is when you talk about ghrelin, there's another hormone called leptin that counters that. And leptin, there's supplementation out there that's supposed to address the leptin, which keeps you satisfied. Just like blood sugar, you have two hormones, glucagon and insulin. They counter each other. What's important to realize that Dr. Anna's talking about is your endocrine system has hormones, and for one hormone, there's always a counter hormone. The goal is you see these weight loss drugs, you see these surgery, these things are to help prevent that, but you can do it with your own options. That if you can implement the right strategies, you can win with that. And that's exactly why I love protein, Dr. Anna. So talk to us about, because I love that you said it's really not low blood sugar, it's not hypoglycemia, because you're not in a deficit, but that hormone starts to trigger it, which then ignites low blood sugar. Protein in particular, what are the proteins that you recommend to help prevent the hangry cause?
Well, any complete protein will do. So I don't want to get into an argument over where people source out their protein, other than it could be because I got in trouble. That's why I have a ticker now, because I was sort of banned from, not banned, but Instagram doesn't like me anymore because of this conversation.
No, let's say it. This is what we do. We bring on the outliers of the world, the best thought leaders, the people that social media says, oh, they're telling the truth too much. We need to lock them down. That's why you come to Food Freedom on Brings TV.
Right. The long and the short of it is, any clean protein that's non-GMO is going to satisfy this condition. So if you're plant-based, awesome. If you're animal-based, awesome. If you're omnivore, fine. Just make sure that it is non-GMO sourced and free range and all those different kinds of things to make it a clean protein. What's interesting about the ghrelin situation is that when you're secreting ghrelin, your body also, not only are you hangry, but your body's metabolism slows down. So for all these people who are intermittent fasting and spending all that time hungry, you're killing your metabolism by doing that. And I understand.
Let's repeat that. You're killing your metabolism. I think that's an important point, that we think like, and we're not here to knock, we're in education. That's what this show's about, to empower you, to educate you. But to understand that if you're only using weight loss injections to take off that brain, there's a counter to that. You're creating a deficit that eventually has to be repaid. If you're fasting, you're creating a deficit that has to eventually be repaid. So just build off that, Dr. Anna.
Yes. So yeah, for every, it's funny because in the modern world, we like to pick the one thing as if it lives in a vacuum and then address it. And unfortunately, humanity, the human body is so complex. You cannot do that. Like you said, for every yin, there's a yang. And so life is about balance. And so that's the whole point of understanding and why we have these conversations, Mark, so people can be educated in what they're doing. They have informed consent when they make a decision, and that they live their life in a balance and not in some vacuum, because what works for one person is not necessarily going to work for you. So the more you know about what your physiology is doing, the easier it is for you to figure out what does work for me. So that's the issue.
Now, Dr. Anna, we just talked, first segment, we did leaky gut. We talked about how to reduce that inflammation in your intestines. You just taught the world about being hangry. When we get back from the break, what are you teaching us in our last segment?
Oh, I believe we're going to talk about one of the most common diseases that I take care of in my practice. One of the most common questions people might ask me is about the condition called diverticulosis or diverticulitis. And what does that mean for people?
You are right. That is what we are talking about. So not just what you believe. We are diving into that. And this is a question that so many of you ask. So stay tuned, because we're unlocking the brain of Dr. Anna right into the brain. to the show. We are with Dr. Anna, and we really took your top questions, and we already addressed leaky gut. You know, what's the inflammatory response to that? We talked about being hangry, and now we're going to wrap with Dr. Anna, something that your patients ask you all the time, diverticulitis. Now, it's something that people just don't know what it is, and they don't know how to solve it. So walk us through how we address this.
Sure. You know, this is the one thing that when I tell patients that they have diverticulosis, these are pockets off the side of the colon.
Oh, wait a second. You're throwing a whole new word at me. I never heard of that word before.
It's the same word. It's the same word. So there are these little pockets off the side of the colon that happen over time. It's an aging process in the presence of pressure in the colon, and it's called diverticulosis. And that's a benign process. It's irrelevant, pretty much. However, diverticulitis is when that area of the colon with the little pockets gets infected. And the reason that is a common question is because people don't realize those are kind of the same disease, different processes. Diverticulitis often requires surgery and sometimes requires the type of surgery that leads to a colostomy. And then those patients can have emergency surgeries as a result of it. It can kill people. So diverticulitis can be a very dangerous disease, whereas half of the population has the uninfected version of that called diverticulosis. And so it is important to know the difference. This disease is caused by pressure inside the colon and almost always associated with constipation. There's a lot of folklore that nuts and seeds cause these pockets to get infected, but that is just folklore. What causes these pockets to get infected is going to be constipation and gas bloat pressure. So anything you can do to decrease the pressure inside your colon is going to prevent you from getting diverticulitis, or at least improve your recovery from diverticulitis, unless you've had such a severe event that it requires hospitalization and possibly surgery.
So when we think about this, when you talk about constipation and that pressure, what's something that, like, give us 3 things that we can do to help alleviate, because many people are constipated. What can we do to prevent that pressure and constipation?
Right. So the first thing that you can do, and there was a study that showed this, and it's kind of revolutionary, although a simple concept, is walking. 30 minutes of walking per day will vastly decrease your risk of requiring an operation for diverticulitis. And kind of a indirect evidence of that was during COVID, when everybody was locked down, no one was walking, and the incidence of diverticulitis was out through the roof. I mean, it was crazy how many people were getting infections of their colon from just not walking. There's something about walking that twists the core of the abdomen and gives you the walkie farties. And as strange as that might be, that decreases the pressure inside your colon. So, all right.
Is that way? That's a new word. That's a new word that we need. You want the walkie farties. That's got to be a new Dr. Anna t-shirt. Can you just walk in place? So, like, if I can't go outside, is this equal, or is it the actual walking motion that makes a difference?
Yeah, just standing straight like a little robot with your legs up and down, probably not as much as a little bit of torquing. So if you're in your living room and you wanted to do the little twister thing, that would be okay. I think that would be okay, because that's the motion that they're trying to recreate. There's some patients who are wheelchair bound who cannot get out and walk. And so just a little bit of, if you can do a little bit of upper abdominal twisty stuff, that tends to help, okay? The second thing is, make sure you're drinking enough water. So most constipation has a tendency to be related to dehydration. I know, me too. So dehydration can lead to constipation, and constipation obviously is what leads to pressure. And then finally, you may want to, as a third, not finally, there's a bunch of other things, but as a third, make sure you're taking a soluble fiber supplement powder that mixes in water. You can do fresh fruit. I'm a kiwi person, as you well know. I love the kiwi, or prunes, or apricots, or even apples from time to time. So fresh fruit fiber has a high proportion of soluble fiber, and that has a tendency to soften the stool. So that tends to help with the constipation issue.
Yeah, what we've always seen is that simple stuff: movement, hydration, and fiber changes your digestive system. And these are all things that, what do you think the percentage is, Dr. Anna, of the people who just are not drinking enough water or moving? Like, how many people are dehydrated?
It's probably 80% of the population that walks into my office. Well, because what they'll drink is they'll drink something with caffeine in it and think just because liquid went down the hatch, they're hydrated. Or they'll drink plain water without any salt in it.
And caffeine's a diuretic. Caffeine's a diuretic that people don't know about.
Yes. And I'm in Texas, everybody's drinking the sweet tea. It's got the iced tea and it's got sugar in it. So sugar is a diuretic, caffeine's a diuretic, and you can drink gallons and gallons of that stuff. You are not hydrated. That's dehydrating stuff, even though you're drinking tons of it, because you're urinating all that stuff out. So you want to drink water, and if you can, get some electrolytes in there that can help rehydrate you as well. Hydration requires salt. Hydrated.
Yeah, electrolytes without all the added sugar. So that's where like a product like a Noon, NUUN could be great. Things like that. Now, Dr. Anna, I mean, we could talk for, I think we could do a 12-hour episode together. People want to tap into the Dr. Anna brain, but we always close with 1%. So give us our 1% coaching for today.
All right. The number one piece of advice I offer every single one of my patients is to do a food and symptom diary. It's simply done by, number one, taking pictures of everything you're eating and drinking. And then number two, keeping a little diary of when a symptom pops up to see if you can correlate a food with a symptom. Then, of course, you could always tune into Brinks TV and watch us talk about food and symptoms. That's how you label your episodes.
Yeah, you just log into Brinks, go to Food Freedom, find the symptom that you want a solution for, and every episode has a title to it. Get 1% better every day. Dr. Anna Toker, you are still the number one. You are the gut guru. You are our best thought leader of the show. Don't tell all the other thought leaders, but they're all great. But people love your brain, and they love the information you're bringing. Make sure you're applying this. This is, we talk about colon and cancer awareness. Make sure you're clear on this. And in a few months, I'm going to be going down to Texas, and Dr. Anna is doing the colonoscopy for me and my wife, Abby. So that's going to be a fun segment. We'll spare you the gory details of that. But make sure you get 1% better every day. DrAnnaToker.com. Follow her on all her social channels. She gives daily content that allows you to optimize your digestion and really live your best health. Food Freedom, your epicenter for all things nutrition. We'll see you in the next show.